Earth is a globe. Well, of course, you might say, a globe. Of course it is a globe. Who would think otherwise? Well, enough people think that in earlier times people thought it was flat. And even now, there's a growing number of people who, even with the Bible in their hands, speak about the earth being flat. Let's take a look. What are we going to take a look at? Well, we're going to look at 4 questions. Did people really believe in a flat earth in the dark Middle Ages? What would a flat earth look like when you speak about it, what it is now, how people think it is now? Which arguments do we have for a globe? I think it's a globe. What are my arguments? Well, I'll take a look. We'll take a look. What does the Bible say about it? Well, I think the Bible does say a few things about it. Let's take a look. First of all, did people really believe in a flat earth? Well, maybe in Mesopotamia. It was a flat disk in an ocean, they thought. They lived in the Middle East, and you had Asia and Africa and Europe, and together it floats in an ocean. That's what you see. They didn't think much about it. But the Greek philosophers had another vision. They thought it was a globe. It had reasons for it, and even in 240 BC, Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the earth over the poles, by the way. We'll take a look at it later. The rabbis and church fathers, well, they believed it was a globe. Of course it was. And not only because the Greek philosophers said so, but they also thought it was a globe because the Bible doesn't contradict it. Let's take a look. So, the flat earth, that's a kind of a myth. And there was a book about it by Geoffrey Burton Russell, Inventing the Flat Earth. What about Columbus? Well, Columbus believed in a globe, of course. That's why he went west. But he didn't have enough victuals to make the whole journey if the globe indeed is 40,000 kilometers in circumference. And he thought it was smaller. So people advised against it and said, it's further away. Don't be so stupid. It's 40,000 kilometers. So for the whole circumference. So it must be further. So you're doing wrong. Luckily he came on America and he discovered America, so to speak. There were more. The Normans, for instance, were there before him. Now it was a 19th century projection. The age of enlightenment, and people started speaking about the dark Middle Ages, that the people there were a bit stupid. They didn't understand things really well. But now in our age, we know it better. Well, the Middle Ages were keen enough. They didn't believe in a flat earth. At least those who were educated. So, what does a flat earth look like? Well, you have the North Pole in the middle. So it isn't the pole at all, and the South Pole isn't the pole. It's just a barrier, a wall of ice around the rim. Well, so you can't go from one end to the other end of the South Pole, right? Well, you can. Space travels, well, they are staged. That's what they think nowadays. Well, let's take a closer look at how they think it is. Sun and Moon are relatively small and near. They work like a spotlight. Take a look, because they orbit in a circle, so it's something like this. That's a model, of course. And if you talk about the seasons, then the circle must be closer and farther from the North Pole. Well, there are some problems with it to get it right, especially in the different seasons. But, well, I'll leave it here, because I want to take a look at the arguments for the globe first of all. And there's this proof of Eratosthenes. I already spoke about him. He lived in Alexandria. the north of Egypt, and you knew that in Syene, in the south of Egypt, there was a well where the sun on Midsummer Day at noon shone right perpendicular in this well. So the sun was right above. That was 800 kilometers south of Alexandria. So he put a stick in the ground in Alexandria, at the same time measuring the angle the shadow, the sun makes, the shadow makes. And the angle in Alexandria was about 7 degrees. So he started doing his math, and he could. And he calculated it was 252,000 stadia, which is about 40,000 kilometers. And that's about right. Of course, it's around the poles, because the circumference around the equator is a little bit bigger. What kind of arguments do we have? So this is the proof of Eratosthenes, but take a look at the stars. The stars in the north and the south sky. We know about the north sky that we have the North Star. And this North Star is in the center, and the stars start orbiting around it. And if you take a look in the picture, you see it. Here's the North Star, and they make these traces of light if you keep on taking a picture, long shutter time. The same is here with from Australia, but you can do it from Argentina as well. And there's different. You have this Southern Cross, but here is what you see. And you see here, it's counterclockwise. But here, it's clockwise. This is different from this. Well, it's hard to see the difference in a flat disk Earth. You can't do that, but here it's very easy to explain the North Pole and the South Pole. But there are more arguments, like long distance flights. Well, for instance, from Johannesburg in South Africa, you go in different directions. Let's take a look at this flight, especially from Johannesburg to Melbourne. What kind of travel is this, and how long do you travel in the different directions? You can do measurements and calculations, and you can compare it with the actual flight. How long does it take? But you can also take a look, just look out of the window when you fly from Johannesburg to Melbourne. According to the flat disk, you come across a large part of Africa, Saudi Arabia, Middle East, and there you go, even along China. You see the Himalayas. And you don't see much of Australia. When you go here, from South Africa here, you cross the Indian Ocean. It's not such a long distance, it's a pretty short distance here. And you go over the Indian Ocean and a whole part over Australia, the last stage. You come from Western to Eastern Australia. Well, just take a look out of the window and you will see lots of water when you do this flight. So it matches with a globe and not with a flat disk, Earth. Windmills at sea or just boats sailing away, you will have this kind of picture that the windmills further away, you can't see the mast or at least the base of the windmill. So there are more arguments for a globe, because you can also take pictures from space. Well, maybe you don't believe in pictures from space, but this is what they look like. And you can pretty much see what it is. You even see a rim around the Earth, because there is, of course, an atmosphere. In North America, with all the lights, and also you see here the sun setting in the west, and you see the shadow of the night sky coming, and it's curved. The moon and planets, they're always around. We have pictures of a lot of them like Mars and Jupiter and Saturn, and Uranus and Neptune, these 5 planets. And what do we see? Well, they're a ball, all of them. Of course, these are taken partly with spacecrafts being sent into space, using all the calculations you can do with the equations of Newton. Lunar eclipse. This is a time-lapse picture of lunar eclipse. Of course, you see it's a ball. That's what you see. And also the Earth has a round shape, curved shape, because its lunar eclipse is because the Earth is between the Sun and the Moon. It's hard to explain with a flat disk Earth. The phases of the Moon, by the way, also, like also the phases of Venus, are curved. Venus here pretty close, Venus almost between the Earth and the Sun, and here Venus almost behind the Sun, further away, so it's smaller. But it's always curved, these phases. And if you take a look at this sunrise from space, and you see this atmosphere here around the Earth. Well, wonderful. A wonderful design of our Creator. He designed this in this way, so that we can be safe on Earth. He did. So what does the Bible say about it? Well, there are different texts that are brought up as supporting the flat Earth. Not many are really speaking about the flat Earth. But first of all, you need to bear in mind that the word Eretz in the Old Testament can mean either Earth, the whole Earth, or a part of the Earth, just the land, or even only the land of Israel. Quite a number of times it just means the land of Israel. The language, the Bible speaks the language of the onlooker, those who just watch and speak the language of what they see. They don't speak a scientific language, luckily not, because that can change, but what you see. Well, it does mean that you sometimes need to think, what does it mean? And sometimes even it's poetic language. It's always right. What the Bible says is always right, but it's written in a certain way, and you need to bear in mind how it is written and take a look at these things. For instance, these ones, the foundations and pillars in the Bible. Are these literal foundations? What about the church? Is there a literal foundation of the church? It's, of course, and also pillars. In the New Testament, pillars are used, the name pillars are used for John, James and Peter, who were pillars of the church in Jerusalem. But also, there are pillars in heaven. Now, don't take this too literal, because then you come into troubles. It just has a bearing upon things like the forces used to keep things together. And the ends of the earth, like the corners of the earth, take a look at what needs to be done with the gospel. The gospel needs to be preached from Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Where is that? Well, here in Holland or other countries far away from Jerusalem. Jerusalem, the center. It's logical. Also the dome or firmament in Genesis 1 verse 6 to 8. Is it a firmament? It's not firm. Raka doesn't mean firm. Expanse is a better translation, and quite a few Bible translations use this word expanse. Because if you take a look at Isaiah, at least 3 texts in Isaiah, I take the first one, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. stretches, expands. That's more logical. So it's not firm. And take a look here again. The whole atmosphere of the earth is not firm, but it's a tent to dwell in. That's what the Lord did, what He gave to us. A wonderful provision He has done for us. And maybe we think about the Lord not great and being not great enough. He is so much greater than we can imagine. So think about it again. Because a flat earth, I think, then you think too small of the Lord. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, a wonderful thing. That's what David speaks about when he looks up to the sky and he thinks, oh, I'm so small, I'm so insignificant, and still the Lord takes notice of me. He is so much greater. Take a look at all these different globes in the solar system. It's a wonderful system that the Lord has designed. And when Newton thought about it, he wrote, well, this splendid system of sun, planets and comets can only find its origin in the counsel and authority of an intelligent and mighty being. And he thought about gravity as a force, and all these spacecraft work, space travels, are still based on what he thought about. And he thought how wonderful this is. And he was the follower of Kepler, who also thought about these things and discovered a few things, and he wanted to think the thoughts of the Lord. And what is it? How did he do it? God is so much greater. So bear that in mind. And there's more. He who sits above the circle of the earth? Well, an old Dutch translation speaks about an old Dutch word for ball. And that's logical. It's a ball. Because that's what the modern Hebrew also speaks about. When the same word is used in modern Hebrew, it just means ball. So it's logical to think about a globe. Especially when you think he hangs the earth on nothing. It just hangs there in the sky. Wonderful. Here we have it mounted. But of course that's not what in reality is. It just hangs there in the sky. The forces used by the Lord to keep it moving and to keep it safe and to keep it firm, so that the sun rises daily and the moon, and that there are times and seasons. That's all in His creation, His wonderful creation. That's why I admire Him so much. And as far as the east is from the west, so far He has removed our transgressions from us. That's a wonderful thing to think about. Because if you take a look from the north to the south, that's only 20,000 kilometers. Well, it's far, but you can travel the distance, right? But if you go east, you can go east and east and east, further east. And if you're in the east, if you're in, for instance, in the middle of America, still east is then Africa. And when east from Africa, you have Indonesia, and east from Indonesia you have South America. So it's always, you can always go further east. You can't stop going. You can never get there. And the same if you go to the west. That's so special to think about how He does it. How He removed our transgressions from us, as David says in Psalm 103. He admires Him. The central verse in this psalm is this verse. So He is great. Let's not make Him smaller than He really is. He has designed the earth to live in for us in a wonderful way. And He is to be praised for it. Amen.